the unheard. And we don't mourn broken buildings, we mourn broken bodies. Okay? But in Utah, you incite violence, you threaten to incite violence, you threaten to destroy property, you're out, you're done. I'm kicking you out and I'm never going to talk to you again. Because I've been here on the ground for 3 years protesting. I've never incited violence, I've never destroyed property. I've tried as hard as I could to keep things peaceful. And if you come in and you've been here a month and you want to ruin our name because you're upset, I'm not going to tolerate it. Okay? You will be gone. You will be gone. You will be gone. That's not how we roll. So, you know, we came back from Ferguson and we moved the work to the ground here. The first protest I ever held was for Darian Hunt, and 3 people showed up. And guess what? We were a mighty 3. We were mighty. We were marching through Saratoga Springs. And, you know, since then we've grown a little. We have fought for Darian Hunt. We have fought for Dylan Taylor. He's white. We fought for Nicholas Sanchez. We fought for James Parker. Who am I forgetting?
Abdi Muhammad.
Patrick Harmon. We fight for all the victims of police brutality. Hey, Black Lives Matter, why don't you fight for the white victims? I do. I know their families, I love their families. We fight for all victims of police brutality. But guess what? There are more black victims, there are more brown victims. Fact. That's why we say our lives matter. When we say our lives matter, we're not saying our lives matter the most, we're saying that our lives matter. We never said our lives matter more, we said that our lives matter. Okay, because we are being pulled over more, we are being profiled more, we are being arrested more, we are mass incarcerated. The majority of black men in prison are there for nonviolent crimes. Okay, now go do a sex offender search in your neighborhood and look at all the sea of white sex offenders who have committed violent crimes but are allowed to sit on the sex offender registry. Right? Because you'd rather see a black man who sold weed in prison than a white man who raped a child. That's how this country is. And we're going to change that. Okay? We're also going to stop the school-to-prison pipeline. Okay? They are suspending our kids more. They are expelling our kids more. They are arresting them. I'm so young, but when I was in school, I'm really old. When I was in school, there weren't police officers arresting us. Okay? They're arresting black kids and sending them straight to jail and taking their future, and we are going to stop that, and I'm going to tell you how we're going to stop that. Okay? What else do we want to stop? Black Lives Matter is intersectional. If that's the first time you've heard that term, it basically means we stand for all marginalized people. That means immigrants. That means the LGBT community, right? That means the Latinx community. That means the Polynesian community, the Asian community. Anyone who's marginalized in this country, that's who we're going to stand with. That's who we're going to protest for. And that's who we are going to defend, right? We're intersectional. If you don't like LGBT people, this is not the group for you, because I won't tolerate it, not one bit. We are intersectional, and we will accept every single person that comes here. What else? What else do you need to know? I think that's what you need to know about the history of the movement. Black Lives Matter has an organization called blacklivesmatter.org. Black Lives Matter is a movement. Say it with me now. Black Lives Matter is a movement. We are not an organization. Okay, there is an organization. They have real activists that do really good things. Okay, but this is a movement. So when you call Martin Luther King during the Civil Rights Movement and say, what civil rights chapter are you a part of, right? No, you wouldn't. It's a movement. Okay, just keep that in mind. Okay, so what have we been doing on the ground? Anyone heard of Utah Against Police Brutality? Yeah, Utah Against Police Brutality. Brutality, the United Front, Black Lives Matter, the ACLU, the NAACP. We started something called the CAG in Salt Lake City 2 years ago. The CAG is an organization that meets with the police department every 2 weeks, okay? What do we meet with the police department about? Everything, okay? So we decided we wanted more de-escalation training for police, okay? Now there is more de-escalation training for police, right? We wanted implicit bias training. James Barker's wife, her name is Heidi Kielbach. She brought Arbinger training to Salt Lake City. That is implicit bias training. It's meant to teach the police officers how to be more human towards accomplices, right, and assailants, right? Arbinger training costs $30,000 per officer. We now have Arbinger training in Salt Lake City. If you talk to police and say, hey, you guys are brutalizing us, you guys are abusing us, the first thing they're going to say is, we don't ever get complaints. What do you mean? We're doing a great job. We have the least amount of complaints of any city. So we said to the police, we want a complaint button on your website. Okay, so now there's a complaint button on their website. Okay. You know, we said, hey, you're pulling over black and brown people more than you are white people. You're arresting us more. Okay? They said, no, it's in your head. Lex, it's in your head, you're imagining this. And I said, why don't you track every person you pull over and arrest, and why don't you put live data tracking on your website? There is now live data tracking on Salt Lake PD's website, okay? Guess who they're pulling over more? Black people. Thank you, amen. Okay, what else do we want? We wanted body cam legislation. When we started the CAG, there was nothing. There was nothing. Right? Then we got 6 months. That means a police officer can shoot you. Are you scared? Shoot you. And he could be like, you know, she was beating me up. It's fine. And then they're like, yeah, we're not going to release that video. That's where we were at when we started, right? Then they're like, okay, now a police officer can shoot you. 6 months later, they'll release the body cam footage. Now, as you just saw, hello. It was just lowered. It was just lowered. Welcome. It was just lowered to 10 days. Okay, round of applause for 10 days. What else do we want? What else do we want? The police get to investigate themselves, and if they commit a crime, this is what happened. So they are put on paid leave, and then the Civilian Review Board reviews the case, and then they can make recommendations to the chief of police as to whether they believe the officer committed a crime and or should be fired. And then the chief of police can be like, thanks for making that recommendation. I'm not going to listen to you. That's how it works, and that's probably how it works in your city. Guess what? We want a community-controlled civilian review board that has the power to bring charges against police officers. That's what we want. You're not going to kill us anymore. Investigate yourselves and find yourself innocent. Okay? We are going to investigate. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to get our community-controlled civilian review board someday. All right. So this is what we've been doing in Salt Lake City. What else have we been doing? You know, Malik and I went and did a cop watch up here. You know, we go to the homeless shelters. We hand out Know Your Rights brochures because the homeless are targeted heavily by police, right? So if you decide, if you're not just a looky-loo, every time we hold the first meeting in a city, we get a ton of looky-loos, people that just want to see what Black Lives Matter is about. But if you plan on being a real activist with us, then we will expect you to do cop watches. What's a cop watch? You know, you're going to go out, you're going to hand out Know Your Rights brochures where the police heavily target people, and you're going to film the police. And what happens is when we started the cop watch in Salt Lake City, they were targeting the homeless people in Rio Grande, and they were brutalizing them and beating them up and doing all this stuff. Well, what happens is, after a few cop watches, if my car pulls up to Rio Grande, the police scatter. And the homeless are like, how long can you stay this time, Lex? You know, they don't mess with us when you're here. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. It gets to the point where if they see Cop Watch Salt Lake City's coming out, they're not going to brutalize people. And it's to the point where the homeless know their rights. They've been given so many Know Your Rights brochures, they're like, I have 47 Know Your Rights brochures. I know my rights. And the number one thing that the homeless tell us is, these don't work down here. We've tried this. The police don't respect our rights. These don't work. They work for you because you have a home. We have privilege because we have homes, right? They don't have that privilege. They're brutalized. They don't have rights. They're given warrants. They can't go to, they can't pay their fees. It's cyclical down there. What's another thing? Needle exchange, right? Damon Harris of Cop Watch goes down to the homeless shelter once a week and does a needle exchange, gives them clean needles so they're not spreading disease down there, and picks up their old needles as well. Tomorrow in Salt Lake City, we're doing two things. I'm only doing one thing. There's a racist councilman who wanted to be racist against black people online. He's running for office in the next few weeks, so we're going to go ahead to his district and knock on every door and let them know that they have a racist councilman tomorrow. After that, we will be heading to Rio Grande to hand out hot chocolate and coffee and Know Your Rights brochures to the homeless. What else did we do? We did a name, the councilman. Steve Smith, right? Steven Smith.
Or
Sandy, Utah. What else do we do? If someone tells me that their kid is being bullied because I grew up in Salt Lake City and I was bullied and there was not that person to help me, to be that person to come to my defense, I don't allow it. I'm not nice about it. You tell me someone's bullying your kid, we do three things, okay? First, calling campaign to the principal of the school. The principal has 24 hours to call me back. If the principal doesn't call me back in 24 hours, we're calling the media. Okay? That's number two. After we call the media, if the principal still doesn't resolve this situation, we're going to send protesters to the school's lawns and we're going to camp out. We're going to make some s'mores. Have some Black Lives Matter protesters on their lawns. We're not letting people bully black kids in this state anymore.
We did that to Weaver High this week.
Yeah, we did that to Weaver High this week. We've done a ton of those things. So, we're here in any capacity, any civil rights problem that you have. We want to address those civil rights issues, whether it's a problem at work, whether it's a problem in the prisons. Also, we need to make sure that we're going into the jails and prisons, and we are registering the people who can vote. Yes, people in jail and prison, some of them can vote. They still have the ability to vote. Let's get them registered to vote, okay? What do the prisoners need? I've done a ton of calling campaigns for prisoners. A woman called me and said that her son was in juvenile detention, and every time she went to visit her son, he had bruises and he was beaten up, and she was terrified for him. And he was a black kid, and one of the few black kids in there, and she said, please help me. They won't let me talk to my son. They won't let me visit my son. Please help me get my son transferred. And I called up and we did a calling campaign, and the warden was kind of combative with me. He's like, okay, so I don't know who you are. I've never heard who you are. And I don't have to do anything. And I said, you don't have to do anything. I'm calling the media next. And then I'm going to camp on your lawn, okay? I want him transferred. today. He was transferred that day, okay? And he called his mom within the hour. This is the power of Black unity. This is the power that we have to help and change lives. We don't care. We don't practice respectability politics. That means we don't only respect people that have perfect grammar and have a degree from Harvard and that dress in a suit, okay? Black Lives Matter whether you're wearing a hoodie and you speak in AABE, right? And you just got out of prison, or whether you graduated from Harvard. Black Lives Matter no matter what, okay? And we are going to fight for every Black life and Latinx life and Polynesian life and biracial life and Asian life and Indigenous life and trans life, transgender life. Oh, and I'm Lex, and I use her, she pronouns. Sorry. I do. I'm getting better. So that's where we're at. What else are we doing right now, guys? It's been a long week.
We're gonna do the gathering, warm the homeless.
Oh yeah.
So we're gathering socks, underwear, and hand warmers, and then we're gonna distribute it to the homeless.
So I'm super tired. I'm gonna take a little break. I did an event, a civil rights event, every day this week and sometimes twice this week. And I'm gonna have Miriam. Miriam is a civil rights attorney. She's one of the organizers with Black Lives Matter Salt Lake City. And I'm gonna have her come up and talk to you about the role of a white ally in Black Lives Matter. And tell them about yourself and tell them about, Miriam, tell them what happened when you put a Black Lives Matter sign in your yard.
Okay. Yeah. So I live in Utah County. I have 4 daughters, and they're adults. And I have a husband, obviously. And my daughters went to to the Pride weekend, and from the church they got one of those Black Lives Matter signs. And while my husband was at work, they put it on our lawn, right? And so we're the only Black family that lives in our community. And we put it up, and within a week, somebody took it down. And so my husband put it back up. And so it was like, okay, whatever. Then they defaced it. A week later, they defaced it. I got it, cleaned it all off, put it back up. And then they stole it. I was pissed. It was like, nobody's gonna quiet me. So I got out my kids' stuff, and I had a marker and I had a poster board, and made my very own Black Lives Matter sign, and I put them up against my garage. And so this was like, and my question was, what are they going to do next? They keep escalating. What are they going to do next? I'm upset. I'm upset and scared. So then this happened on a Saturday. We get a phone call on Monday from my husband's friend from work, and says, your house is listed on a gun enthusiast page with directions on how to get to your house. What were they going to do next? And that's what they did to us. Did we take those signs down? No. We had to call the police. We called the police and we said, we are being threatened. I contacted Facebook. Did Facebook take down their stuff? No. Did the police, my husband was on the phone with the police for 2 hours to convince them that this was an actual threat, that we were scared of our lives, that we were scared for our children. We no longer let our children be home alone, even though they're grown. We're like, somebody has to be here because we don't trust what's going to happen when we go to work. And luckily my parents were in town, so they were able to be in the house. But we had to convince the police that it was an actual credible threat. And the only way my husband convinced them was like, if this would have happened to you, if somebody would have said, these are cops and this is where they live, and now, it's just a gun through his page, how would you feel? And he's like, scared. And how the hell do you think we feel? We were scared. And then we invited a bunch of neighbors to come to our house and say, do you want to know what this is about? And they come in, and half of them were very well-meaning, like a lot of people who want to know, and this is a lot of people here. And then there was this one little bit in our own house who were sitting there questioning what we were doing. In our own house. And it was one of those, like, you don't understand what we, like, this is not the first time we get any type of racist thing. Like, this is our life. My husband and I, when we first met, our first date, we had some racist commotion that happened against us. And a bunch of black people were together, and they came, and the police surrounded us at the mall. And there was a group of white people, same age, over to that side. Nobody surrounded them. Nobody questioned them. Like, that's how my husband and I started dating. So, we've been married for over 20 years. So, that's what our life's been like. So, that's my passion. I will not be quieted. Am I scared? Yes. But I will not be quieted. So, she wanted me to talk about white allies. We have a couple of white allies here, which are so helpful. I will say that white allies are helpful. But there's a difference between white allies and POC. For those who don't know what POC is, people of color. Okay? And sometimes some people don't know the difference. And we see that on the page. Any of you guys, how many of you guys here are on the Black Lives Matter page? About half of you. So some of you guys have probably seen it. Yes.
Just really quick, for those of us, the white allies in the room, if we can make sure that people of color have a place to sit, that we're really going to.
Up here.
There's some.
Up here.
Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. We have some speakers. Don't all get up. We have plenty of seats.
Yeah. There's enough seats for people to come up. There's a
whole
row.
There's a whole row.
Come join us.
All right, sit back now. You're making me nervous.
Yes. Can I speak louder? Okay. Okay, so we have a couple of materials on white allies. They're up there, right?
I think they're over by the door.
Over by the door. Okay. So one of the biggest things that as a white ally that you do is you support. What you don't do is you don't quiet. You don't quiet people of color. What does that mean? What does that look like? Because I think a lot of people, we say these words and we don't know what it looks like. That's like, don't be so angry. Oh yeah, the loved one. He was always like, just love everybody. And that will solve racism. We all just need Pepsis. You know? And now that they love Pepsi products on BYU, racism will be cured. So don't do that. Do not do that. Do not quiet people because they're angry. Like, I had people tell me that I shouldn't be so scared. You know the way we got the guy to take down the thing was I actually have, as a lawyer, I have lawyer friends. I had a lawyer friend write a cease and desist letter. And I knew where he lived. I figured out where he lived, because as lawyers we can do that. And sent him a letter. All of a sudden, miraculously, it was taken down. But the thing is, I had to do that for myself. Facebook wasn't going to protect me. The police did not want to protect me. I had to do that for myself. So, be an ally. Be supportive. Don't question. Is that the way it really went? I know I have a story. When we tell that story that our first date, we've told it to friends and white friends who said, well, maybe you guys just looked threatening. I was like, yeah, this is what looked threatening. Nothing else. It's just kind of like, are you questioning what I felt or what I experienced? So don't question the experiences that are there, because just because you see it some way doesn't mean that's the way it happened as far as from the white perspective. Okay, because there's a white perspective. We talk about privilege, about white privilege, and there's that understanding of white privilege, the way you see things. There's everybody is good. The cop is not going to kill me when he pulls me over, you know? But is that an actual fear that black people live with? Yeah, I've seen the black people going, yes, absolutely. I get scared. When my husband is late 10 minutes, I seriously am scared. Because we live in Utah County, you know? And it scares us. So as a white ally, you're there to support. You're not there to quiet. You're also you may help with leadership, but how would it look if we had Black Lives Matter and we have a white person here who is speaking everything? How much credibility does that give it? So we have to, you can come, you can support, there's ways that you can help, but understand the leadership. Understand that leadership and respect that leadership. Because the leadership talks from experience, just like Lex was talking about experience, things that she's done. Not so much like things that she's seen, but things that she's done, things that she's experienced. And you want to experience it the same way. You just won't, you just can't. And you have that privilege, and good for you. I want to have that privilege. I don't. White allies, you are welcome to help. Come and support. Come to the rallies. Come to our protests. One of the things I went to a protest. I think Charlottesville. Was it yeah. So we went to that one, and one of the things that we saw, my husband, my children were all there, and we saw like a bunch of reporters there because it was actually a very big gathering. But the reporters were only asking questions to the white people, and the white people were like, "Oh yeah, I'll take the camera." And I was like, well, let's see. That's almost like if we're doing Orlando, and like we went to the Orlando one. If they started asking me questions about Orlando, or like, how do you feel about this? It's like, yeah, I'm here to support. I'm here to be an ally to transgenders, to homosexuals, bisexuals, LGBTQ plus, C3 pluses. But that's the same thing. It's that. So if you do go to a rally and you are saying, hey, why don't you ask that person who is actually directly related to this experience? Talk to that. And yes, we've seen that allies have been killed, which is horrible. And this is a scary thing sometimes. It's nice to be able to sit back and be able to just watch it and think, okay, well, that's just happening there. But it's a scary thing to put yourself in front of there. Scary for me to put my Black Lives Matter sign up. And now we got a new one. And to tell you the truth, we really are scared. And we're waiting to put up our cameras before we put our sign up. Because my children's lives matter more than mine. More than my pride to put that up. So be careful on what you're quieting or what you're doing, or notice that maybe perhaps in something you might be taking the spot of a person of color. Be just vigilant of that. There may be times where a person of color doesn't feel comfortable to step up because they've never had that role before. Encourage them. Encourage them to speak. Encourage them to come out. And an ally, we talked about that, an ally is not a badge that is given. It is something that is earned. It's one of those. If you call yourself humble, are you humble? No. Yeah. Well, you're very humble. I know that, Lex. So, like, we have some great white allies who record and put it on our page to free us up to be able to speak. We have another white ally who brings always a microphone for Lex so that everybody can hear her. And then Lex told me a story about the white allies when you were up here in Ogden. Brittany.
Oh yeah. Presley.
Oh, Presley, sorry.
Presley. Okay, I will. But you do your thing.
Oh,
and when you're done, I will.
Okay. Okay. So, and I don't know how Ogden's. I'm a transplant from California. from Orange County, California. Okay, the OC. That's where I'm transplant from. So this was a culture shock. Utah was a huge culture shock for me and my children. I will tell you something that I've seen. I've seen it from when I grew up in California and having my children here, that our children are so vulnerable. Our daughters and our sons are so vulnerable. My children, for the longest time, my daughter thought she was like the ugliest person in the world because she never got asked out on dates. She never had a social life. And I'm like, trust me, go to college. There's more black guys there. You're beautiful. And sure enough, now she has too much of a social life. But they're vulnerable. We need to be aware of that. And it's not so much coddling, just reminding them that it's where we live. It really is where we live. You know, my husband's from North Carolina, and he's from he was from a town that was segregated beforehand and still somewhat segregated. And so he will tell the girls, like, trust me, this is not everywhere. This is just Utah. And just like California was our California life, and his life in North Carolina was North Carolina life. It is very, very different for every person. But understand that for Black people, it's almost the same. There's still that racism everywhere. There's still that segregation. And I'm going to tell you, like, I'm a civil rights attorney, and one of the things that I will tell you to do if you ever feel like you're being discriminated against, documentation. Document. Seriously, because it's so hard to bring something up against somebody if you only think like, well, around August, I think. Like, keep a diary. Really, keep a diary. It's so much easier when somebody brings me like, on this day, this happened, and this is where it was. That helps so much more. So document. Allies, if you see something, say something. You see something, say something. That's what an ally is. See, you support, not just watching it back. There's a movie that I love. It's called Hotel Rwanda. And there's a line there in which when he's trying to say,